Hi, welcome back to another scripting tutorial video. For this first tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make a conveyor belt. First thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a part inside of our workspace. Here I have it set to 1 stud so that it moves by 1 block. You can change it to however many studs you want, but I'm actually going to put it at 0.2. So I'm just going to have the dummy just for a size reference as to how big I want my conveyor belt to be. You can make it as big or as small as you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create the border of the conveyor belt first. I'll make this quickly and I'm just going to put this part into a model. So I'm going to do Command G, and as you can see it puts it into a model, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this model conveyor belt, and then I'm going to select this part inside the model by pressing Alt, and then as you can see it's a thinner line to select it because then I can select the actual part inside instead of the entire model when I just use the left click. So just Alt and then left click to select a specific part inside a model, and then I'm going to duplicate that with Command D, and then I'm just going to resize it to the size that I want it to be. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward conveyor belt. It's just going to go straight on, and then I'm going to duplicate that as well. So Command D to duplicate, and I'm going to shrink this down to maybe about here so that the parts don't fall out, because we are going to add a dispenser as well. Also what you want to do is anchor all your parts. So I'm going to select this model and press Alt A, or you can just press anchor here in the model tab, and I'm just going to change this to, maybe we can do concrete and have this be smoky grey, and then we can change this to, I'm going to rename this part to border, rename this part to belt, and I'm just going to change the border to metal so that it will look nice. Maybe I'll change this to a black colour. So this is our conveyor belt. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a server script. So just press the little plus button and then you can look up a script over here and then create a script. And what we're going to want to do is we are going to want to get this model. So let's just go ahead and do local conveyor equals script dot parent. So because the script is inside the conveyor belt, when we do script dot parent, it's referencing this model over here. And what we're going to do is we are actually going to loop through this. Even though we only have 1 belt, you may have multiple belts. So what we're actually going to do is I am going to make it turn just to show you. I'm going to select this belt, so Alt and then left click, and then I'm going to right click and press show orientation indicator so that we see which way the look vector is, because that's going to be important for what we're about to do next. So I'm just going to duplicate this and I'm going to rotate it over here, and if I do show orientation indicator, you can see this is the forward indicator over here, and I just pretty much want to align this up over here, and I'm just going to drag this out and then duplicate this part, bring it over here, just make all of this attach nicely, and you're going to want to bring this all the way over here and it will overlap, but that's what you need it to do. So there we go, and then just bring this around here, and then I can just make this longer, duplicate it, put it on the other side like this. Make sure that it's nice and placed properly. There we go, now it's all nice and set. So as you can see we have 2 belts in here. So hold on, let me delete this and then Command Z to undo, because then you can see that it has been put in alphabetical order and it's not all messy, and you can actually clearly see that there are 2 belts in here. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to do for underscore, because we don't care about the index, belt in pairs conveyor get children, and then we're going to do, and then the end will add itself automatically. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all the children of the conveyor belt, and we only want to get the belt. So we're going to do if belt dot name is equal to, so 2 equals to belt, then we know that it's one of these 2 parts, or however many belts you have created in your own conveyor belt. So we're going to do belt dot assembly linear velocity, because that is the new velocity. You used to be able to do just velocity, but they did update it, so velocity has been deprecated, and this is what you need to put instead to change the velocity of the part. And we are going to do belt dot cframe dot look vector. The look vector is basically this, the orientation of the part. So this is the look vector for this part over here. We can add just another little variable for a value. So I'm going to put this one all in caps, and we're going to do conveyor underscore speed, and we're going to make this equal to, let's do a speed of 15, and we can multiply that by conveyor speed. So if you want to change it, just change it here, or actually put the number. It's all in red because I forgot to put the equal sign over here. So now if we go ahead and test this out, if we place our character on the conveyor belt in just a second, as soon as it loads, there we go, there we go, our belt is working pretty nicely. So if you don't like this overlap here, because as you can see there is a little bit of an overlap, I don't really think it matters to be honest, but if you care, you can always make the belt transparent and then have a nice smooth piece that does nothing, and don't call it the belt, call it something else if you care about that. But if you don't, just leave it like this and you should be good. So yeah, that's a pretty simple conveyor belt right there. So what we're going to want to do next is we are going to want to add a destroyer for the parts that will fall, and then collect it, and then you can add money or do whatever you want with it. So I'm just going to duplicate this belt. I'm gonna bring it forward, and I'm just going to make a little square. So as you can see, it's going to be 2.8 by 2.8, and then just drag this out, duplicate this, there we go, just for the border. And what you might want to do is actually drop this down a little bit so the parts can actually fall if you want, or you can just keep it like this. Do it however you want to do it. And I'm just going to change this to a red color, and maybe we can do neon so that this is where the part will get destroyed. You can call this collector, and this will collect all the parts. We're going to script this part in just a second, but first what we're going to want to do is we're just going to want to duplicate this border again, and here we can just add just a quick little dispenser that will drop parts into our conveyor belt. You can just make this look however you want it to look. I'm just going to do a quick little design here, nothing too complicated. There we go, just bring this up, and we can make this plastic, maybe just change it up a little and bring this out. There we go, and then bring this down, and then I'm going to duplicate this part, and there we go. I reckon that looks pretty sweet, and I'm going to make this neon and just make it really black, and you can make this whatever color you want it to be, or maybe I'll make it green actually, just so that you can see it better. And I'm going to call this dropper. So what we're actually going to do, just to make this a little bit neater, is we're going to grab all of these parts here, and we're going to Command G, put this in a model, and we're just going to rename this model dropper, and we're going to place this in the workspace for 2 seconds. So do Command and then click to select multiple stuff, because otherwise it just selects one, and then you're just going to want to do Command Alt G to put that in a folder. Here we're actually going to grab our script and put it inside the folder instead. Instead of doing script or parent, we can do local folder equals script dot parent, and then we can do folder wait for child conveyor belt, and we can just change that to conveyor belt here, and Command C, Command V that there. Just quick little changes. And what we can actually do, because you're probably going to have multiple droppers, is we're going to put this in another folder. So we're going to do Command Alt G, and we're going to name this droppers. We are going to do local droppers equals folder wait for child droppers. So this is conveyor belt, and then over here we can go ahead and do the droppers. So we're going to do for underscore, because once again we don't care about the index. Dropper in pairs, droppers get children, so that we're getting all the children inside this dropper, which are all going to be models. And we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to want to get this part, which is actually going to drop the parts. So what we can actually do is duplicate this part and place an invisible part over here. So this is where I want the cube to drop down. So we can go ahead and make this part transparent, because we don't care about this part. And we can go ahead and make this can collide false, because we don't want it to collide with the other parts. And we are going to call this placement. We're going to want to get the placement of each dropper. So we're going to do local placement equals dropper wait for child placement. We can go ahead and duplicate this placement part here, put this into the script. So you can call this whatever you want. You can call it money or cash or whatever you want it to be called. I'm just going to call this block. First, let's actually make this zero transparent. Let's just make this be smooth plastic. I'm just going to make the parts that fall blue, and what I want to do is this will collide, but I'm just going to set this to transparent for now. And what's going to happen is we're going to clone that part inside the script. So we're going to do local block equals script wait for child block, and we're going to clone it so that we're duplicating it essentially. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to do block dot transparency, and we're going to set this to 0 because right now the block is transparent. Let's also just unanchor the part in the script so we don't have to do it in the script. So just uncheck anchored in the properties tab, block dot parent equals, and we're actually going to create a new folder inside this folder, and we're going to call this blocks so that we can put all our blocks in here and we can actually get them to get destroyed over here, because we don't, for example, if the player steps on here, we don't want the player to get destroyed. We only want the blocks to get destroyed, and then you can add money for the player or do whatever you want when a part touches that destroy block. Let's go ahead and add another variable. We're going to do local blocks equals folder wait for child blocks, and then we can do blocks because this one doesn't have an S, but this one has an S, so these are two different variables. So if we go ahead and play, we should see that, as you can see, there we go, the part fell, and here it is. Obviously we haven't scripted this part yet, so nothing's going to happen to the little block. So what we're actually going to do is instead we're going to change this belt name to child and just copy and paste it all over child, because we're actually going to do, if the name is belt, that's what we're going to do, but we're going to have an else if statement, and we're going to do else if child dot name equals collector. So let me show you what it will be. Where is it though? That's the dropper. So conveyor belt collector. So if that's the name of the part, then what we're going to want to do is we are actually going to want to child dot touched, so the touched event, and we're going to connect this with a function, and this will be the touch part, and just drop a line, and then as you can see it will automatically add the end for you. And what we're going to do is we're going to do if touch part dot parent equals blocks, then touch part, and we're going to destroy the part so that make sure you spell it right. So basically if the part is inside of this blocks folder here, which is where we parent the dropper blocks, then we will have it get destroyed. So if we go ahead and run this instead of playing, as you can see it falls, there we go, and boom, the part's destroyed. And then obviously you can then go ahead and do whatever you want with it. So when the part gets destroyed, you can also add cash for the player, or you can have something happen to the server. You can add whatever you want. I already ended the video for some reason because I thought I was finished, but I do want to show you that you can have multiple of these. So I'm just pressing Command D to duplicate the droppers. So now we have 3 droppers, and if we just press run, you'll see that they all get added just fine. Oh, but as you can see, when we played, all the parts spawned here, which is not what we want. We can fix it really quickly. So what's happening is that I'm not setting the C-frame of the part to the placement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do block, and then we're going to do pivot to, and then we're just going to do placement dot C-frame, and that will set the block C-frame to this invisible part over here, so on each dropper. So if we go ahead and run this, there we go, now the blocks are falling correctly, and boom boom boom, they all got destroyed. Now that's pretty fantastic. If you want this to happen every, let's say for example, maybe you want this to happen every 10 seconds or 5 seconds, so I'm going to do Command X to cut this, so it's going to copy it and delete it, and I'm going to just put this in a while loop. So I'm going to do while wait, and then 5 seconds, do, and then there we go. So now this chunk of code will run every 5 seconds. So if we go ahead and play, so that I can show you that my character won't get destroyed when I touch it, and it's just the blocks. Anyways, there we go, and your character can also go on the conveyor belt, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, my foot doesn't get destroyed because the script only destroys parts that are in this folder. So there we go. And then boom boom boom, all the parts get destroyed. So yeah, that was a pretty easy conveyor belt to make. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody else who's trying to make a conveyor belt. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!